my kids would literally try and stab me with pencils. My brain doesn't always catch up with my mouth. I play this game to watch the world burn. Everybody should chop off their arm and sell their left kid's kidney in order to fund it. Do you ever wonder, when the camera is off, what happens to those games that are talked about? What happens to those games that are so hyped and so well rated and reviewed and the must-haves of last year or 2 years or 3 years ago or that sort of thing? Where do they go? Do you keep them when the camera's off, Chris? Do you sell them? You know, it's all over the board, right? But what we're doing here today is we are looking back at 5 games that I reviewed, that I hyped up, and I'm going to say, where are they now? And how do I feel about them now? And we're not going to just pick the games that Chris loves in the first place. The type of game that is just absolutely no question, right? This video wouldn't be any fun if I was going to give you 5 games that were all, I have it, I love it, I have it, I love it, I have it, I love it, I have it, I love it. Or, I love it, but for some vague reason, I got rid of it. Oh, isn't that funny? No, this is not one of those videos. I'm giving you 5 games that are going to be a little bit all over the board mechanically speaking, but also why or why not, they're where they're at. Let's freaking go. Now, full disclaimer here at the beginning though, we have to say, I did not also choose games that are gone, right? Like, that's obvious as well. Oh, I got rid of it. I wonder what Chris is going to say about it. Like, again, stupid idea, stupid concept. Throw that out the window. That's not difficult. That's not anything introspective into my head and how things have changed or haven't changed in that regard. So let's, again, so we can't include that whatsoever, right? So that makes the criteria for choosing these games a little bit more select. It's still in my collection. Would I be willing to get rid of it? Would I like to get rid of it? Would I like to play it more? Should I play it more? Do I feel justified in still owning it? Do I feel good about the money spent? Because also, it's really easy to do that with review copies too. So we're going a little bit all over the place in all those ways. Are you ready? Okay, first up right here. We're going to make this very clear, right? Wiz War. I bought this. I bought both the expansions, Malefic Curses, as well as Bestial Forces on the secondary market. And I said, I need to have these. I consolidated it all, actually, you can't tell, into one box. And I said, wow, this is an experience game. This is me holding up my little wand on the thumbnail going, you need to buy this game. As a head-to-head, absolutely chaotic, take that above all else, score 2 points to win style wizard battle. And, okay, how do I feel about it now? Am I happy I spent almost the cost of a Kickstarter, a good-sized Kickstarter, to get all 3 boxes in that way? Okay, how do I feel? Blatantly honest. I feel freaking awesome about it. This is an amazing game. This is a never leave my collection game. I truly mean that above all else. This is a top 25 game for me all time, period. I have no complaints about the expansions. I just can't incorporate enough of that expansion stuff on a usual basis. The gameplay is exactly what I'm looking for out of a simple take that, crazy, chaotic, experience-driven, remember when this happened previously when we played it last time style of game. It doesn't overcomplicate things. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't, overstay its welcome even in the terms of, keeping the playtime down to a minimum. It forces the head-to-head interaction in a positive way, as weird as that is to say, and it gives you everything I want that I feel like even more recently when you see subsequent styles of this game, especially wizard battling, especially with guys on an actual grid moving around, just tend to overcomplicate and overthink, and I have to have, a 20 to 30 page rule book to understand all of the maneuverings. And this is a game that is the absolute utter best at saying simplicity is the elegance of it in the first place. If you enjoy this, I will wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone who has similar tastes to myself. It's best at the 3 and 4 player count, so you can actively screw other people over on a turn-by-turn basis. I do not play this game to win, let me be very clear. I play this game to watch the world burn. If I can screw people over and do something crazy, winning's out the window, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people who's like, winning doesn't matter. I want to freaking win. But if I can do something just absolutely off-the-wall ridiculous, this game allows me to do it. And I don't really care if I win or lose at that point because, as I always say, it is about the fun and the ability to play more than anything else. Ooh, that first part of that last sentence. We're going to talk about that with the next one. Okay, speaking of ridiculousness and speaking of getting it played. Okay, again, full honest assessment. I have not played Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor with all of the gameplay content that I own, because I own it all, nearly enough to justify the price. Nearly enough to justify spending as much money as I did. Again, if you go back on my channel with all of these reviews and videos, you will see that I was absolutely hyping these games to holy hell. The quote and the ridiculousness of this still stays true, though. This is unlike anything else that I have ever played. A 4X cooperative, absolutely awesome, not miniature, standy frickin' game. This is a love letter, a testament to one of the most difficult games in my collection, period. But it's a 2 to 3 hour plus style of things, which really excels at the higher player counts, and really you can just get absolutely wiped off the face of the map as your symmetric or asymmetric factions slowly upgrade and deal with the AI system that is incredibly, incredibly unforgiving. And again, like I said, I own all of the gameplay content. Have I incorporated it all? Hell no! 3 hours right now as a dad of 3, working a full-time job, doing this only between the hours of pretty much 9 to 11 p.m. on weeknights and occasional weekends, is almost nay an impossible task. And so the get it to the table played factor is by far and away something in my collection that probably should not be there in the first place. But this is the sort of game, even though the hype quote from me was, "It slaps," which is an absolutely ridiculous quote, by the way, right? I just filmed prior to this me reading ridiculous quotes from crowdfunding pages. Boy, let me tell you, I cracked myself up on that video. You probably won't find it as funny. It'll probably be watched by 50 people, but I just found it funny to talk about and to look at them and to say, what does this even mean? And I included my own quote on that video just to say, you're an idiot. You're an idiot, Chris. There's no other way around it. And so in theory, this should not be in my collection. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. At the same time, do I want to get rid of it? Should I get rid of it? No. Because I truly stand by what I say. This is unlike anything else that is in your collection. This is unlike anything else on the market in general. There is no game that comes close to replicating this or anything along these lines. Period. Period. And it has some of the best production value from like a 3 or 4 person Nemesis Games team out of any game that I own. It has the best standees, potentially, I see you, Brother Ming, on the market in that way to say this is worth it. Is it worth it, though, for you is the question, because, again, it's very blast you in the face now of what it is and what isn't. And that is the most important thing to me, of knowing that before you're buying a game. So if that sounds like an absolute joyride to you and you're new to my channel and you didn't see that original video, I mean, go check out more of the playthroughs and rulebook for yourself, because you can add bosses and you can add difficulty and there's a solo mode now and just all of the stuff that you might have wanted out of it in the first place, because they've been freaking incredibly responsive to backers as well, right? It's not like with a lot of other companies too, where, okay, hey guys, we have this expansion pre-packed and pre-canned, and when the next crowdfunding campaign hits, we're just gonna pop it open and put it out there. Or, hey, we have this one already from the get-go, and we've actually separated out some of the stuff. No. Okay, first crowdfunding campaign, these are the criticisms of the game. Hey, what does the expansion do? It addresses the frickin' criticisms of the original game. Is it perfect? No. It's still way too hard for me. It's still way too long for me. Is it going anywhere? Hell frickin' no. The third game we're talking about is Nekojima. And you may not be familiar with this, but stay tuned, right? This absolutely, on camera, was one of the best captured moments in the whole channel history, right? I was filming the review for this dexterity-based wooden cats hanging trepidatiously from a wire in the form of a just random rope that goes between two pillars. And I dropped the cat on camera while it was recording, and it fell from about maybe this far, and it went from one line to falling on the other line below without actually touching the ground, because that's actually how you lose. And I said, holy crap. I think I actually cut that out and slow-mo replayed it in the video, because it was absolutely the most ridiculous thing you could not have even planned. Like one of those trick shots that you see on Dude Perfect, where not only did it happen in the first place, but it happened on like the first time it actually happened, right? Like not staged, like I'm not smart enough or talented enough to do that, as most of you know at this channel by this point, to actually have something like that happen. So how do I feel about this balancing of the Cat Island? Have I played it recently? No, I haven't, truth be told. Hasn't come out in the last 6 to 9 months. Actually, no, I take that back. 6 months for sure. It's hit the table in 2025. And I feel a little bit mixed, because I sort of thought this just vaguely when I played the prototype before the campaign. But I feel like the final edition here, although you don't need any of the expansions that add like different dynamics to the stacking and the cats and all those things, the ropes between these pillars of wooden blocks are ultimately probably a little bit longer than they need to be, which adds an increased difficulty in the first place to the point of becoming a little bit frustrating. Which ultimately is something that I recognize that I sometimes don't want to play in that sense. And so as the main game from a dexterity standpoint that I will often play with the kids in the past, it has definitely limited its ability to get to the table in that way, because it is more frustrating at times than fun, truth be told. And so that is by far and away the biggest limitation. At the same time, you just restack them and just go. But it's ultimately one of those things that, and I look at from a production standpoint, whereas usually production issues don't really affect the gameplay. They don't really, change how the game is dynamically balanced, because, right, it's a card stock issue, or it's a coloring issue, or whatever it may be. This is one of those that actually does kind of, and I'm not really sure at this point. I need to play it more at this time to see how big of a detriment it is for me. And I would make the argument too with the extra expansions. I mean, I have them all, but are they necessary? No. That's probably the thing I would look at this point and go, I would not recommend one bit whatsoever. And I feel okay saying that because the core principle doesn't actually change. And I think it's one of those in the opposite way of Wiz War, where I think it overcomplicates rather than keeps the same maintenance of the balance and equilibrium in a literal and metaphorical way as you're playing it along. Will I keep it? Will I get rid of it? This is probably the highest one on the list of these 5 games that I would at least consider getting rid of. But if I'm being, again, fully open to you guys, I don't know who would acquire it, and I don't know that I would actively seek out to get rid of it in the first place, just because there is this element of kid fun factor that you can't quantify, you can't label, you can't justify in other games in the same way. And so from that element alone, it makes it a hard sell, literally. Now we're talking about Ra. Ra! With the recent release after the crowdfunding campaign of the Traitors expansion. No, not Traitors. I know my Michigan accent is horrible at times. Traders, if you will. I'll be more enunciated of my pronunciation. I remember when I first got in contact with Chad from 25th Century Games. And I said, hey man, I've never played Ra. Never played Ra. And with the reprint coming back with this Pharaoh Edition, I said, hey man, I'd love to cover this for the campaign. And so he sends it to me like less than a week before the campaign rolls live. And like, here you go, as a prototype copy of the new fancy wooden token edition. And it was one of those games where I said, you know what? this is a classic, right? There are certain games in this hobby that you go, this is a classic, this is a mainstay, you need to try this game, you need to play this game, and everybody has their own set of opinions of which ones those are. You know, for me, it's Ra, Hansuju Takanika, El Grande, that vibe of a little bit more old school Euro, or in general, just that time frame of games as well, because, you know, games do stand up in some ways, many of them, this test of time. It's not just the latest hotness. And the core gameplay of this is no different than the original. It's just so much freaking prettier. Isn't this thing pretty to look at? It's also heavy. I love the wooden components. But let's not get distracted from the real issue at hand, the gameplay. I was practically yelling at the microphone in this video, if you go back and look up, this is awesome! This is freaking the best auction game ever! You should all own this! You should all play this! Oh my gosh! Right? You've never seen videos like that before, telling you that the latest game coming to crowdfunding is the biggest hype and hotness that they've ever seen, and that everybody should chop off their arm and sell their left kid's kidney in order to fund it and buy it, especially when it comes with over-deluxified, gluttonous style of components in the first place. That does not happen, especially when the new campaign rolls live and all of a sudden you see the embargo lift and the gates of the pearly whites open and everyone proclaim the greatness that is the game. I know I'm getting a little bit overhyped and over-exaggerated with this, but you know exactly what I'm saying, though, because it happens frequently, again, myself included, on that side of things, you know, sometimes, truth be told. And I said, rah. It's a great game. Again, this is an absolutely outstanding game. I don't care what copy you get. Like, I'm not going to be one of those people where that says, you know what, you have to buy the plastic version of Foundations of Rome, because Foundations of Metropolis is just absolutely night and day difference, and you will absolutely be able to tell the difference of your enjoyment in your collection, right? You can't tell the difference of your collection of this. Wooden versus cardboard. Who frickin' cares? There are some games, though, that I do like a nice upgraded component. I'm looking at you also, Bullet. I didn't include Bullet on this list. Can I shoehorn in another game I love, Spirit Island, for the hell of it? Yeah, I'll mention it just to piss people off in the comments, because they're always like, Chris is always talking about those. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about those in a video like this. You already know my opinion. But this is a top game of all time for a reason. There is nothing for me that surpasses these mechanics when we talk about the preeminent auction-style set collection in that way. Again, it's just, I stand by the statement that I, alluded to and joked about a minute ago of you need to try these games. Like, I'm passionate about that because it comes from a place of people saying, I don't like board games. I don't like this type of game. I really not a big fan of auction in general. I am not a fan of pick up and deliver in general. But there's always that one or two games that you look at and you go, nah, I don't think I'm going to like this. And you go, oh. Or even, whoa. And for me, that was Raw. And that stays tried and true in this case. I don't have anything else really in my collection that is similar. And I don't really want anything else in my collection that's similar. Because the inevitable comparisons are going to be to this. And this is what I'm going to play. Now, with cooperative, I feel like there's enough variation because that's one of my favorite ones, and I love exploring and dabbling in all of the different pawns and aspects of the variety that's available to you. I know, I threw pawns in there just because I can, because it was the first thing that came to my mind. Again, my brain doesn't always catch up with my mouth, but that's why you also love me on this channel, because it just comes out sometimes and not always in a good way. Phrasing. Anyway, so this is, again, probably a top 25 game as well for me all time. And it's not going anywhere. Do I feel, as I begin this section with, the need for traders? Traders? Can't help myself. No, I don't. It's one of those games that I look at, and as much as I, with, Curse of the Last Emperor, which is behind the loot, by the way. It has a permanent spot on a shelf behind me. It's how freaking good it is. Don't believe me? Yeah, I put it right back there, so you can't even doubt me. I don't feel the need for traders. Again, I'd be happy to try it out at some point, but I have absolutely zero inclination to go out of my way to pick it up as well. And I don't need it to match this, although, yeah, I need it to match this, but I'm not going to do it. I may. Okay, I may. But It's not even on my wish list on Board Game Geek right now because I feel that strongly about it, I guess. Last up, we have the biggest elephant in the room. Almost literally, but at least literally for this video. And I declared this as one of the best dexterity games of my life. My kids, absolutely, still to this day, love Binho. And if you're not familiar with this, it is basically a piece of random turf thrown on a piece of random, I don't even know what it's made of at the bottom, and putting metal spikes onto both sides and flicking around a ball until it hurts your finger, trying to score it in the little end goal in order to, well, just, I mean, like soccer or football, depending on what side of the pond you're on, to score the most points. And it's just that, right? It's just, you know, all these other games are Euro replicating or managing the soccer football elements on a card-driven team aspects. No, this is just you literally hitting the ball, trying to mimic it in that way. It's got little springy sides so you can kind of hit it all over the place. It comes with this stupid bag and yellow and red cards because if you like double tap it or you lean too far over the edge of the board, you get a penalty, right? And in case you're not familiar with it and the images overlaying on this video don't make a whole lot of sense to you, this is what you've got going on in this overly large deluxified box. And I guess that's the term I was looking for. This plywood that you can see along the side, right? With this little bit of like fake turf as well. Is it fun? Yeah. Is it actually really freaking difficult sometimes to score? And is it completely random? Yeah, because these pegs honestly are probably a little bit too close together. So it blocks it significantly unless you can like trick shot, like loop it like this. Otherwise, you're just sort of playing pinball in here and hopefully that your opponent gets the ball stuck in here as they're trying to flick it out and then you can score an easy goal. And that's where most of your goals are scored. Otherwise, it's more like a poor man's foosball playing style of things. If you've ever played foosball with people that don't know what they're doing, right? They're just spinning the knob, hoping that they hit lucky and it goes in the other end of the goal. And sometimes it does. Now in foosball, though, the better players always win. In this case, that's not the case. And so that is the lesson of frustration. And also, let's talk about the other elephant in the room. The other elephant in this room, as I alluded to with this board and with this turf and with even the goal that you can kind of see down here, is that the quality of the materials is, honestly, for the price, kind of piss poor, in my opinion. Looking back on it now and looking at how much I paid, because the regular board usually goes for like somewhere between $90 and $100, and they actually license the hell out of it with other Premier League as well as MLS and a few others, like thematic incorporations of this for the same thing, and they price it gouge wise up even like more. But if you said to me right now, I'm gonna pay $100 for this, if I knew how much my kids love it, I would easily pay $100 because I can think of all the Pokemon cards that we've bought that are just sitting in a box somewhere, you know, collecting mold, that easily have outcost this in that vibe. At the same time, the cost is probably about, I want to say at least a quarter to a third more than what I would realistically want to pay for it now. So if you could pick one of these up on the secondary market, I'd do it. Would I buy a brand new one from them? No, because they don't even really have huge sales at the time of holidays. So I'd have to say pass overall. As much as it is probably, when we looked at previously the dexterity side of things earlier in the video, this is by far and away the most played dexterity game in my house, and it's not even close. And I'm even having trouble telling you that it's justified knowing that that is the situation. So, again, so being completely open with you guys, that's how I feel about things. Would I buy it again? Probably not. Is it going anywhere? No. I think my kids would literally try and stab me with pencils if I got rid of it. The part of this, though, that is more hopefully intriguing is picturing games for you that I bet you can right now. To say, I have these similar to Chris. Where are they at for me? And are you keeping them for the reasons you should, or the reasons that really necessarily you probably shouldn't, and maybe consider selling them? By the way, if anyone wants to buy a bunch of games, I have a bunch of other ones we can talk about. That's all I got. Stay classy. Peace out. See you around.